Hello everyone, I do hope you're well. It's Michelle here. Welcome to another video. The true crime channels that are deep into the Chris Watts case in the last few days have been discussing a possible sighting of Nichol Kessinger. I'm not going to take those pictures from Just Larry's channel, even though other people have been using them, and I think he's happy for other people to use them, because I genuinely can't decide whether it's her or not. And whether it is or not isn't really the focus of today's video. If you do want to see those pictures, I'll leave a link to Just Larry's video down in the description box. But I do want to discuss Nichol Kessinger. She's the mystery woman. She's the woman that a lot of true crimers discuss. There's potential theories around her being part of the murder plan, whether it's a plan to blow up the oil field, whether it's the fact that she basically controlled the narrative. And she did. She absolutely did control the narrative. She controlled the text message conversations. She controlled the room when she was interviewed. She took her dad in with her. He did his part in controlling the narrative of those interviews as well. So it's speculated whether he is a Freemason. It's speculated whether Nichol Kessinger was having an affair with someone higher up in Anadarko, not just a get your hands dirty oil worker like Chris, but someone maybe in the exec team who was able to, hush things up for Nichol. It's my opinion that there is some kind of cover-up. Why the crime scene was closed down so quickly after Chris's initial confession. Why it was put out very early that Chris had confessed to all the murders. Actually, he was just saying he confessed to Shanann's murder, but he was adamant that he didn't murder Bella and Cece. It was only in February the following year, February 2019, that he confessed to agents Lee, Corder and Detective Baumhofer when they went to see him in Wisconsin, in Dodge Correctional, that he confessed to all the murders. She was known, D.A. Rourke, after the sentencing of Chris Watts, said that she hampered the investigation by deleting evidence. It's alleged that the officers at the time the investigation was closed down, that Nichol Kessinger was being investigated. Indeed, it's speculated now whether there is still an ongoing investigation. It's speculated that there's going to be more arrests. Now, whether you believe that, whichever theory is your preferred theory, there's probably truth to some of this. It's highly unusual, and the questions that have been left that basically breed these conspiracy theories, the more kind of elaborate conspiracy theories, really, for me, draw on Nichol Kessinger and why information about Nichol Kessinger was left out of the discovery files. The redacted discovery files, for example, don't include Nichol Kessinger's phone records for that crucial time around the 13th of August. Her records for the 13th of August are available, and that notorious ping in Frederick at 6:16 a.m. when she never pinged in Frederick other than when she was at the Chris Watts house. But we can speculate on why she was there, why she made that 1-minute phone call to leave Jim alone, her friend. We probably will never know unless Nichol is brought to trial or Chris Watts gets his 35C granted and the judge does grant him a trial, but that would be utterly extraordinary if that occurred. I doubt it will. If Nichole's role, if she had a role in the murders, was covered up back in August 2018, then it would be equally extraordinary if she was brought to justice now. There'd have to be something highly unusual that occurred for that to happen. My personal view is that she did have a role in the murders. I'm not sure, though, that she actually completed the murders. I think Chris did that himself. Now, whether she was there in the morning to clean up, whether she was there to try to get into Shanann's phone. I don't know. I honestly don't know. She didn't do a very good job of cleaning up. The sheets in the trash, the sheets on the bedroom floor. If she was there to clean up, she did an awful job of it. Why would she need to go there to get into Shanann's phone? I guess to stage text messages. Because if Chris had taken the phone with him, then the phone pings would have been at Survey 319 or whatever worksite Chris was at later in the day. So that would have been obvious. I could just as easily argue that Chris did all of it himself. Chris was completely gullible and took things literally. So if she told him that he had to get rid of his family, I speculate that perhaps, I've said this in a previous video, the idea of Chris getting rid of his family and the idea forming for Chris to, instead of just getting divorced and, be financially wrecked by it, on July the 14th, when she freaked out, in Chris's own words, and she left the house and she went to sit in her truck to text him because she wanted to be the one to give him a son, when Chris supposedly admitted that Shanann and he had been trying for a baby. Did he tell her actually that Shanann was pregnant on that day rather than just trying for a baby? And Nichol freaked out, and Chris then, the idea started to form in his head that he needed to get rid of the baby, to get rid of baby Nichol. And then the plan developed from there in Chris's head. So perhaps Nichol, her only role in it was telling him he needed to get rid of his family, meaning divorce his family. Whether that was her only role or whether she had a more active part in it, as many people suspect. That 111-minute phone call on the evening of the 12th of August, as Shanann's plane was delayed from Arizona, as Shanann waited for her flight, as Shanann tried to ring Chris and he pretended that he'd passed out on the couch when actually he was on the phone to his mistress. When Nichol was interviewed by Kevin Kovac, she couldn't remember what they talked about for that 111 minutes. Were they discussing the murders then? Did she have an active role in it? And did she just drop him like a hot potato when it all started to unravel? Maybe she changed her mind. I don't know. All these are speculations. But what is absolutely for sure is that Nichol has disappeared. She could be a millionaire now, writing her story. Why doesn't she do that? Why has she maintained her silence all of this time? Well, maybe it's because she has been paid off. Maybe it's because she's protected. Or maybe it's simply because she doesn't want any limelight. She just wants to heal, get on with her life, etc., etc. There's only one time that she spoke out, and this was in the Denver Post. And I'm going to show you the article. This is the one and only interview that Nichol Kessinger did with the press, and it was in November 2018. It's horrific. Christopher Watt's girlfriend speaks out for the first time as sentencing in Frederick murders draws near. And that's that infamous picture. He lied about everything, said Nichol Kessinger on November the 15th, 2018. When Nichol Kessinger started dating Christopher Watts in July, it's argued that she started dating him before that. Indeed, we know from the discovery, and it's still in the discovery, it's not been redacted, she Googled both Shanann and Chris Watts back in 2017. Why? We don't know. Maybe she set her sights on him. Maybe she met him early on and set her sights on him. Maybe she found out what he liked. Maybe she found out that he was into cars and sports, and she moulded her chasing of him. This carefree, spontaneous girl next door image that she had, that surely did appeal to Chris Watts. Shanann was very regimented, very controlled. she had Chris under the thumb. Maybe Nichol was a breath of fresh air to Chris. So he appeared to be a soft-spoken man who was at the end of divorce proceedings. But that's kind of not true, is it? He told her on July the 14th that they'd recently been trying for a baby. So is she telling the truth or is Chris? Well, both of them are known liars, so who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. It wasn't until the Frederick man's wife and 2 daughters went missing in August that Kessinger learnt that Watts had never started divorce proceedings with his wife, who was 15 weeks pregnant, and that he'd been lying to her for the entire relationship, which lasted less than 2 months. So presumably she'd worked with a PR team on this. Is this the one chance, the one-ditch attempt that she had to get the public's favour? I don't know. Kessinger was shocked by Watts' arrest, but she never doubted that he killed his wife, Shanann, and their 2 daughters, Bella, 4, and Celeste, 3. I don't think there's a logical explanation for what he did, she said. It's a senseless act. It's horrific. They're so little, she claimed in one of the interviews with Kevin Kovac. They're so little. Kessinger approached investigators before Watts' arrest and participated in multiple police interviews. It doesn't say that she lied through her teeth and she was controlling the narrative from day one. It doesn't say that, does it? Describing details of their relationship in what he had told her about the missing family. Now that Watts had pleaded guilty to the murders, so she thought she was home and dry. She was home and dry, of course she was. Kessinger said that in an exclusive interview with the Denver Post that she wanted to share her side of the story. Many people have speculated about their relationship after the arrest affidavit revealed that Watts had been having an affair with an unnamed woman. Watts, 33, is scheduled to appear in court Monday for sentencing hearing after pleading guilty last week to murdering his wife and 2 children in August. I mean, all that was so strange. And concealing their bodies on a rural Weld County oil site. If the judge accepts the plea deal, Watts will be sentenced to life in prison for the crimes that drew national attention to the small town north of Denver. Kessinger, a 30-year-old Colorado native, said the brief affair had turned her life upside down as people named her on social media and discussed their relationship in online forums. And NK, how do you feel now? It's still going on. Apparently she's changed her name. But we just met, Kessinger said. I barely knew him. Well, that's strange because you spend 2 hours Googling wedding dresses and making search terms like, will a man leave his wife and some such that she did. But 2 hours Googling wedding dresses, seriously, with someone that she barely knew. I think she's playing down, this brief relationship. I think she's playing it down as she played it down in the interviews with Kevin Kovac. She played it down, but she's playing it down even more here. Kessinger was working in the environmental department with an Anadarko petroleum contractor when the two met, she said during a Thursday morning interview in the office of her lawyer, Ed Hopkins. So she was in her lawyer's office when this interview was taking place. So controlling the narrative. She's got a lawyer to control the narrative. Every morning, Watts and the other operators would gather in the office break room while they waited to be dispatched to a field site. Kessinger would walk through the group to place her lunch in the fridge, but she never spoke to Watts. So innocent. One day, in the middle of June, he walked into our office to introduce himself, so he did all the running. They continued casual conversations. She noticed that Watts did not wear a wedding ring, and Kessinger, who was single, thought he was attractive. When he spoke to me, he was very soft-spoken. He appeared to be a good listener, she said. Watts told her he had 2 daughters, and after Kessinger asked, Watts said he was separated and at the end of divorce proceedings. I believed him, she said. When they first met outside of work in late June, Kessinger asked Watts more questions about his divorce. He told her the mutual divorce was almost final. Well, he could have done. He absolutely could have done, but she found out the truth. She did know. She did know. They were working out financial details, she said. The two began a physical relationship in early July and saw each other 4 to 5 times a week, Kessinger said. So it's hardly, a brief relationship. Even if it was brief in time span, it was pretty full on. You know, seeing someone that you barely know 4 to 5 times a week is pretty full on. She told him she wanted to take it slow and he should focus on helping his daughters adjust to the divorce. Well, when he went to North Carolina and she said that he needed to spend time focusing on his family, on the 14th of July, when she said, "Why do you want to give up all of this? And can you make it up with your family?" She didn't really mean it, did she? She was calling Chris's bluff, and he was maybe too naive to realise. Because when he didn't respond in North Carolina and said he would only be able to respond in text message, "Are you with them? Are they there?" So the focusing on the family thing was just a ruse, just a ploy to get Chris to say, "No, you're the most important thing, you're number one," when she realised she wasn't number one. When Watts went to visit family in North Carolina at the end of July, he called to tell her that his divorce was final. I don't know about that. Later that month, he asked Kessinger to help him find an apartment that would be good for him and his daughters. They never spoke about long-term plans for their relationship. So she Googled wedding dresses just on the off chance then. Or was she planning to marry someone else? Was she really having an affair with someone else that was maybe more promising? Maybe she was just a game player. You know, I used to know a game player. I used to know someone like Nichol Kessinger. You know, she wouldn't want the man that she was chasing. She would just play the game. She would get a kick out of being the one that the men wanted, and then she'd drop them from a great height. I get the same feeling with this person. He made me believe he was doing all of the things a rational man and a good father would do, she said. Kessinger never met any of the Watts family or friends. On August the 13th, the Monday that Shanann and the girls disappeared, Watts texted Kessinger to say that he had been busy. The two chatted like normal throughout the workday. Her phone records would say otherwise, because normally they exchanged a call every morning, but not on the morning of the 13th. It was only later in the day when they started to exchange messages. About 3:45 p.m, Watts texted that his family was gone. He told Kessinger that Shanann had taken the girls to a play date and had not returned. It seemed casual and he didn't show any emotion, she said. Kessinger was worried about his missing family. She told him to pawn the wedding ring, but she didn't want to make a big deal out of the situation that Watts seemed calm about. Then news reporters showed up at the Watts family home. "I was very confused why the media was at his house," she said. Later that night, Kessinger learnt the full situation. Shanann's wallet and purse were still in the house. Watts left work early to let the police into his home. Police had been trying unsuccessfully to contact Shanann all day. When I read the news, I found out he was still married and his wife was 15 weeks pregnant. Well, given that she was looking them up on the internet, I think even if Chris hadn't told her back in July, she would have known. She was shocked at the lies and scared for the missing woman and children, she said. If he was able to lie to me and hide something that big, what else was he lying about, she said. In a flurry of long calls and texts that night. What about the 111-minute phone call the night before? Did you mention that? Or did your lawyer maybe advise you not to? Watts changed his story about his split with his wife. Kessinger barraged Watts with questions. Were there signs someone had forced themselves into the home? Were their daughter's car seat still there? Was one of the girls' EpiPens still in the house? Well, did she know all of this? Did she know that the CC had an EpiPen? She barely knew him, so why would she have known all of these details? Why would she have known to ask about car seats? Why would she ask all of these questions? A man that she barely knew? I don't think so. Watts didn't show any emotion during the conversation and tried to change the subject away from his missing family, she said. It seemed off. While at work on August the 14th, she texted Watts, pushing him to tell her what he knew about their disappearance and asked him what he'd done. He told her he would never hurt his family. It got to a point he was telling me so many lies. Well, you'd know all about that. When I eventually told him that I did not want to speak to him again until his family was found. What day did you delete all of the text messages? And did you tell Chris to delete his text messages? I wonder. Kessinger checked the news in hopes Shanann and the girls would be found. The next morning, she called the Well County Sheriff's Office to tell them about her relationship with Watts, yet to get her story in first. She met the FBI investigators that day. I just wanted to help, she said, although she couldn't remember things, and when she did, she gave them piecemeal. She had them running around. She couldn't get a new SIM card, and her old SIM card had a problem, and I'm so worried about my job. She was just so concerned about her. And look at all the holes in the discovery that centre around the role of Nichol Kessinger. Like her GPS, where is that? Where's her GPS? Let's have a look at that. With a pregnant woman and 2 children missing, I was going to do everything I could. Her suspicions proved true when the police arrested Watts later that night, August the 15th, for the killing of his wife and 2 daughters. Kessinger saw it on the news. I just felt so sad, she said, because they're so little. Since his arrest, she has never doubted that he killed them. The story that Watts told police, that he killed Shanann after he saw her strangling one of the girls, is a lie, Kessinger said. He's a liar, she said. He lied about everything. Well, he did. He has. He has lied about everything. So she's right there. But so has she. She's protected her own skin. And if she did have some involvement in it, as many suggest, then she dropped him like the proverbial hot potato. But tell me what you think. What's your theory? Let me know in the comments. I've been Michelle. I do hope you're well, and I will speak to you in the next video.